like to open tonight's select board meeting Tuesday, November 20th. We are still doing the meeting tonight so that the select board members can enjoy preparing for Thanksgiving dinner. So it was posted, and we'll move on along here. Let's take a look at the agenda to see if there are any changes, if any.
To say what time it was.
It is 6:33 p.m. Any changes to the agenda? I'll make one note. I'm going to hold open 3A Sanborn. We played phone tag a couple of times. He might make it, but he may not make it.
He did call this afternoon and he said he would be here this evening.
Okay, so if I said that we would left the message on his machine that so we're going to table this until he arrives. He's going to talk to us about the wear and tear on the roads and logging so that we can help to develop a good policy for that. Other than that,
That might be him then.
any other items on the agenda that anyone would like to speak of?
No.
No? Okay, hearing that, I'll make a motion that, the agenda stays as set, I Bruce.
This break is over.
Okay, so we are at 3A, we'll hold off. If Sanborn does come in, we'll open the meeting up to him so that we can talk about that. Unscheduled members of the public, we have Jordan Wheeler from Grassy Brook Road here, who moved into town 2 years ago. It was all right. I do remember the sign for sale a year ago. You with your wife and your son, right?
Yes.
Well, welcome to town. You came to see our great select board in action, right?
I did.
If you have any questions, let us know. And Mr. Laborgna?
Yeah, I hear about the Newbrook Fire Department line item. I don't know what that's about, but I have information.
Okay, I think we got some through an email, but we were working on the budget.
All right.
All right, excellent. So Gary Laborgna and Jordan Mueller. Now we'll move on to item number 5, approve the minutes from the November 7th, 2018 meeting. We'll start on page 1.
This is the stuff that we didn't get for the speakers.
Any items on page 1 that someone sees that they need to correct or edit?
Down under the
That's a copy there.
Robert Spencer,
He's got
the
it.
third paragraph, I'm just going to change. Mr. Spencer noted the SWMD board will be meeting Friday, November 9. It was actually Thursday, November 8. So I'm just going to change that.
Any other items on page 1 of 5? None. Go to page 2 of 5. I will make a notation that under the approval of the minutes from October 17th, it says all were in favor. I abstained because I wasn't here for that meeting. Any other items? Oh, I have a question about page 2. Under General Fund 1 Municipal Budget, second paragraph, it says, Mr. Tanza explained that delinquent taxes cannot be counted as revenue and suggested $1,000 as a penalty and suggested interest on unpaid taxes at $1,000. I'm not sure, there was some awkwardness to that.
Basically in the budget, under the line item of penalties, it should be $1,000. Interest on the amounts due is a separate line entity, and that should be whatever figure we...
$1,000 it says
Yeah,
also.
okay.
Okay, so it's just our discussion.
It was part of the discussion, okay. I also wanted to make note under appropriations, II, buildings and grounds. Let me see, make my own here. There was a discussion on whether the soccer field, oh, never mind. We talked about that. That's like that. Anything else on page 2? Here, now let's go to page 3 and 5.
The only thing I had was down under the box culvert and the third paragraph, the last sentence, where it says that Mark acknowledged Lafayette guardrail for their consideration. I don't think that was the case. I think he acknowledged Springfield paving.
We spoke with Lafayette and Springfield Paving.
Right, but Yeah, I mean, I think he mentioned that he had spoken to Lafayette about getting an estimate on a guardrail, but as far as the paving was concerned and sort of, I think Mark essentially expressed appreciation for Springfield Paving's flexibility with that, so.
They fixed that area by Cynthia Now's.
Was that pre-planned?
We said, when they did the
Yeah.
servo,
Well, it was sort of, it was,
throw some pavement on this spot,
Yeah.
please.
They did
I
it as a
think we
favor.
asked them to do it
Yes.
if they could do it before they left town. When
And they did a good job, they feathered it out, and they gave us a invoice, I may be in this, for $300.
And
I heard that did, it's really
that
nice.
was up above, he was just asking for prices on the Lafayette guardrails.
Right. So I'm saying, I think that the reference is correct, it's just, it was to Springfield paving, not Lafayette guardrail,
Okay. So we'll make an edit to
so
that.
I'm changing that.
Anything else on page 3? Okay, go to page 4 of 5.
Nope.
And page 5 of 5. Okay.
Move to accept the minutes as amended.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion, seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Okay, as amended. We're gonna go back to item 3A, Sam. Which one, Sam? That's so Sam. Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Sam, how are you? Not
Good.
much, you.
Nice to meet
Glenn Panza, David Jones,
Hi,
Chris
hi.
Webb, Bruce Mello.
How you doing?
Hi.
I don't know if Mark's coming tonight, but we asked you to come because we wanted to talk a little bit about the logging. We know how logging is an important part of the agricultural business here in Vermont, and it happens all over the state. We've had some questions and concerns about the logging up on Whitney Hill Road and the wear and tear on the roads due to the logging. And we just, you know, would like to hear a little bit. We're working on developing a policy so that we can protect the roads below a logging and so on and so forth. So could you, when there's a logging procedure, you're not doing the logging, but you have a company that comes in and...
Yeah, I guess I'd more describe myself as representing the landowners up there,
Okay.
on Whitney Hill in particular. So I guess the issue is that the roads are being deteriorated because of
That
the...
came up a couple of times in
And
the...
speed and time of day that they're doing that.
All right, so say again. Oh,
There-
Gwen's in the office and she's heard...
We had a couple people complain, one specific person has come in 2 or 3 times, and she was concerned about the speed of the logging trucks and the noise and how fast they go up the road, that sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they use their Jake brakes, you know, that's that, which is loud in the valley.
Right.
But basically it's, and you know, what it's doing to the road itself.
So I guess we could start out talking about time. We, on the select board, we're trying to figure out if there was a policy about when this kind of work could run. What time do loggers like to start to work in the daytime? Do they like to work dawn to dusk, or 8 to 5, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's really a weather dependent, and time of year. If there's, I know particularly this year, we've gotten so much rain that there's a really short window when the roads out to the log landing or even, our main roads are suitable to run trucks over. So when we get a dry stretch of weather, that's when they're working from, they'll show up at 6 o'clock for their first load of the day, and then they, and so on throughout the day.
So they would bring up equipment at 6 in the morning to start cutting, or to load trucks, or the previous day's cut, or?
It sounds like the complaints as far as the log trucks go, it would just be a generic log truck like, you know, anywhere else just for transport of the logs.
Big witness area.
Yeah.
So they start at 6.
Yeah.
Some of the complaints were that the log truck had no markings on it whatsoever,
Right.
and the person had no recourse to, you know, notify the logging company. The other thing is that some of those trucks have been going up there at 5:30 in the morning, and to be honest with you, I can hear them at 5:30 in the morning at my house. So, you know, there's some concerns about the residents on that road.
Sure.
And the other thing was that the logging company was using the road as a staging area, and that was in our right of way. So
Yeah.
Mark was concerned about that also. You know, I realize it's at the end of the road and so forth, but in the event there was an emergency or anything else, we need to have our roads open. So that's what we're just trying to get to, you know, to have a happy medium for all concerned. I realize agricultural is important, but so is some of the safety and the concerns of our residents who come into our office.
Was that brought up to the logging company?
Well, I don't,
Well, I think that's where part of the question is that who identifies, who is the person that is coordinating the actual trucking for the logging? Is it the landowner? Is it yourself?
So that,
Because when the trucks are unidentified, how is a resident or anyone supposed to be able to figure out who they would contact? So presumably someone, yourself or the landowner, whoever's, is the person who's actually hiring the company that is sending the logging trucks, but.
Right now, Longview Forest Management is the foresters on that particular piece of property, and Advanced Harvesting is the one who is carrying out the work. And I don't know, there's a number of different trucking companies that get hired depending on the species that they're cutting and you know, who's available.
how about overweight permits when these big trucks are going through town? Is there one or two that are, we have them on record, so what we're trying to do is to get a handle on, you know, what.
Yeah, I don't have, like I said, I kind of represent the landowner, and you know, I've got an idea on what's going on, but I don't know what truck driver comes in each day and so on.
So who, I guess maybe it would be helpful for us to understand, like, what is your role in the logging that's going on there?
I work for the landowners. I've done some harvesting in the past, you know, a few years ago, but that was all sugar bush related.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you represent them, I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Yeah, I work with the landowners. I'm not a forester or anything like that, but
so like the foresting companies that you talk about,
Yeah.
Longview, and who hires them? Who is the person who actually hired them? Is it the landowner?
Yep, the landowner would agree to hire them, and Longview Forest Management is their is kind of the middleman.
See, I don't know anything about logging and
Yeah,
forestry work,
so-
so that's why I'm asking you to teach
This
us
is-
a little.
Yeah, right.
So I know.
I've logged, and I've always done it one-on-one. I've never heard of this in-between stuff or anything. I go out and hire somebody that logs, and they come in. Well, 15 years ago, I had a horse and team come in and take out 13 log truckloads of pine off my land. And it was fairly cut and dry. I don't understand well all the different people in between. I guess what I don't understand is why we can't nail down who's doing the work on whose property so that we can make them responsible for what's going on.
Well, I think Mr. Bourne is,
Go ahead.
I think Mr. Bourne has kind of answered that. He said the landowner is using a forester who in turn hires a company, so that that's where the three people are, whereas you yourself just cut your own wood and had, hauled
I
it
didn't go
away.
my way, I hired the lot.
So just some background on this piece of property is and kind of why all of a sudden there's a lot of harvesting going on is it's near 500 acres and it's all but the homestead has been preserved by the Vermont Land Trust. And when that takes place, you have to abide by a state management plan, and that management plan is what's written by Longview Forest. They're the licensed foresters. So under this management plan, there's multiple different areas, and it all has to do with the goals of what the landowner wants. So there's some sugar bush, and then they're trying to get some regeneration growing, and it's all far overdue from any harvesting. The last logging that was done there was probably over 40 years ago, and the foresters are they're trying to get up to date with that. So there's a lot that's happening right now, but then after this initial logging period, it's likely to cease to more like what you would see on a smaller piece of land where they might come in and log a small area over the course of part of a winter, and then it would be done for a couple years.
Do you see any conclusion of this project in the near future?
Yeah, from what I don't have a copy of a management plan with me, but it's likely. I guess I don't dare say unless I have the management.
Well, do you think they're close to the end, or is it going to be?
Yeah, they're close to the end with this parcel. Whether the next area is due by the management plan, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It sounds like to me that Longview Foresters are the ones because if they're controlling, they're managing the project, then using the town road as partial staging or having forest equipment in the road would be the ones to be responsible for it. Reason why we asked you here so that we didn't have to call 6 different companies trying to find things.
Yeah.
Let's ask Sam, he's in town, well, if he can come by and answer these questions, that'd be great.
So that you guys are concerned because the road has been degraded and not, I guess, rebuilt to its original standard, or?
Well, we had people who logged up past the, I'm gonna call it Pinnacle, but it's not the Pinnacle. Yeah, Pinnacle Trail. We had a bond. We secured a bond. They came in, they talked to the town and said, we're gonna be logging in this area, and we secured a security deposit bond that they would return the area to as well or better than the way they found it.
Sure.
We don't have such a bond right now with anybody else, and so as developing a policy for future situations so that we don't have, it's what we call inconsiderate logging.
Sure.
Where, the road, it's mud season, you gotta wait till things, not now or not, but in different seasons, the road has to be firm enough to bring the trucks in, and once the temperature gets to a certain point and the road starts to puddle up, you shouldn't be driving on it. So we need to develop this, and so.
The other issue is that as the town clerk, I'm the responsible person for the overweight permits. I'm also the road commissioner, and I don't have any permits that have been secured by any of your trucking companies. And maybe if you could tell your client that it would be nice for them to have them come in and file a permit process, because with the permit process comes a insurance certificate that guarantees that in the event there's any damage or anything else, the town has a recourse to repair those roads or do whatever it takes to make them right. Just standard business, as you know.
Yep. Yeah, I can relay all this to the foresters, but like I said, I don't have anything to do with the trucking that's going on.
Correct, but
or
he would know more about that.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen DOT up on that road. I don't know, I haven't heard of if they have, came up with any illegal trucks.
Oh, I don't know either.
Well, I think there was at least one of the residents that has had complaints about it, I think, spoke to DOT and my impression from that person is that DOT did try to do a little investigation, but without any details of any of the trucks' identities and stuff. I don't think they got anywhere, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I haven't seen a truck up there without a name on the side of it, or,
Who's doing the cutting?
advanced harvesting.
Who is the landowner?
It's
Barkley Wood.
Barclay and Joan Ward and, some of, yeah.
And they have
And
500,
they're maybe under a trust, I'm not sure.
and they have 500 acres.
It's rough, yeah,
Yeah.
400 something.
It's a big piece of land.
But there's only a few big pieces of land in Brookline, and it just so happens that, like you take for example, the one on the end of Parker Road has had, decades of logging, but it only lasts for a short period of time. And that's probably why this project has raised flags, because everything's kind of happening at once.
Right, it's 40 years.
So it's a lot of catching up, as what you were saying.
Yeah, or I guess, I don't know, when did you guys get a bond for the logging that happened on,
That was up at, that was
2 years ago?
2 years
That
ago.
was the one that was right here.
Right here.
That's it.
Oh, that was
Oh, okay.
part of it, the one that was right here by the barn, yeah.
sure.
And then there was the one,
I believe Holden did the logging.
Bolton was for the one right here by the Red
Yeah.
Barn.
Right.
Because they had a dog problem.
Yeah.
Remember that? And then
The big problem we have, Mr. Bourne, is that we just need we need to be able to answer the resident who's, actually made these complaints, to let them know that we're doing something, we're proactive, and also to explain, because we're in the dark, we did not know what was going on up there, so I think you've cleared the air of that, and I think we can have the contacts, and if we necessarily can get a hold of them and find out what's going on.
Yeah, if you could contact the management team, which was Longview Forest.
Yep.
And/or the Advanced Harvest, and ask them to contact us, and/or give us their phone numbers so that we can reach out if they don't reach out to us quick enough.
Certainly.
We can follow up
You should contact
and talk to them, but I think you gave some, they do like to begin work early, huh? That's,
Yeah.
Depending on the weather,
depending on the weather, the weather dependent, the time of year.
they're trying to make hay where the hay's good, Especially this year, when we've had 3,000 inches of water. My God. Enough water to last a lifetime.
Yeah, it's been a difficult
So your
season.
guys' idea is to create some sort of policy in town
Right,
for.
we did a couple of policies, just so that we have some kind of protocol to follow. So we said, well, there's a complaint about logging. Well, do we know that there's logging? Do they have an overweight permit? This policy says that they should fill out an overweight permit, and they should have insurance and proof of insurance. We're not looking for permitting fees or anything like
Yep.
that, but we want to have some knowledge of what's going on, because, there is wear and tear on the pavement roads, but also the dirt roads,
Absolutely.
we do a lot of road work here. in
Like the
Brookline.
gentleman that was logging up here, he did some damage when his logging trucks came out of the driveway from the barn.
Sure.
And it was brought to his attention that it collapsed a culvert maybe, I can't remember for sure. But he literally went in and fixed it, put in, so he made it actually better than it was before. That was part of the agreement when they were logging, and that overweight permit and whatever, that if you're logging, you need to at least leave it the same way as it was when you started.
Okay,
And
and
that's the town's concern.
then the issue you're having with the work on Whitney Hill is that you don't have a contact
We don't have
to,
any contact, we aren't sure, you said Sanborn, well, Sanborn's not up there doing all the logging, we knew
We
that.
knew you weren't doing it.
But we knew that you were part of it, so that's
involved
why I
with
called
the,
you
with
up.
the landowner, sure.
Yeah, so if you could get them to contact us and/or give us phone numbers, we could follow up as well. I really appreciate you coming in tonight, I know you were kind of noticing, we didn't know how well the storm was gonna take up your time, but.
Sure, no, absolutely.
And just for the record, because we keep minutes, who's here?
Corey Nystrom. I
Oh,
live.
you look familiar, yeah, Corey Nystrom, okay.
I go to school for forestry, so I came to support him.
What can you tell us about, in general, policy-wise, what's the norm? Enlighten us a little.
I'm not very experienced, but probably there's so many markets for the different species and types of wood that some of the truck drivers have to drive up to 3 hours away. So like it's to travel a long ways to come here and pick up the wood. So.
Could if you've got to make 2 trips in a day, then
That's why they need to start earlier.
Yeah, or
Or they
a
come in
lot
later.
of I guess like the Canadian any wood that goes to Canada, a lot of them are bringing a product down, and then this is logs are a backhaul to Canada.
Yep.
So it's a complicated process, and you just.
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it's unfortunate that this project is kind of all happening at once, and that's why, and it has stretched over a number of years.
Yeah, like he said, like this Park Road, for example, it's been logged, every few years with their management plan, but this hasn't been on management plan, so now they have to get that land up to snuff, So they're doing a lot of harvesting, but once the initial harvest is done, then it will be more like repeated, further apart, smaller parcels of
projects.
land, not
So yeah, so it could be, for example, one section that just got finished, it could be, another 7
years.
Yeah, 15, 30 years before there's a substantial harvest that happens there again.
Do they replant the trees?
No, so we have such a high regeneration rate around here, they don't need to. So they open up the canopy.
Yeah, they'll grow.
5 years later, you got another harvest. 10 years later.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I'm doing mine.
Select board members, any other questions or concerns that you'd like to ask them?
I think you covered it.
I don't think so.
Thank you so much for
Thanks.
coming.
Yeah,
Your
thanks.
name again is
Corey Nystrom.
Corey Nystrom.
It really did help, Sam. It really
Okay.
did.
Yeah, thanks,
Information
Sam.
was very helpful.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
I will,
You're welcome to stay if you want.
yeah,
Listen to the good stuff.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
so
you.
much. All right,
Thank you, Corey.
You're welcome.
perfect. Okay. All right, so Longview Forest and Barkley and Advanced Harvest, we should be, once we get their contact information, see if we can get them to file our overlay permit and show proof of insurance and be retroactively responsible for the town roads that they are using and just also get them not to stage on the road if possible. Anything else?
Right, yeah, we should make sure that, well, when Mark is able to be here, because Mark had some of those other concerns. I don't know if any of us are totally clear on what some of Mark's concerns were.
Well, I think the consideration, considerate logging practices need to be implemented, and that is again the timing, the road conditions, the weather, and trying not to, that was a concern. Okay. Okay, so next we're entering into our 2019-2020 budget discussion and general fund municipal budgets. Before we let Mr. Lavorgna go, you just got toned out?
No, it's just Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, they test our pagers.
Oh, okay.
It works.
Okay, I thought so often.
They do siren too at the same time.
Before we get into the appropriations, want to take a look at items, I don't know why I did those Roman numerals, eyes.
83?
Yeah, 2 and 3, we're on number 6, 2 and 3. Rescue Inc. line item, and Newburgh Fire Department. You're here to talk about the Newburgh Fire Department?
Yeah, what is the line item, what discussion?
Well, it was just that we didn't have
The figure.
we got
mutual aid, and I
mutual aid
believe we
numbers.
have it for.
Yeah, I sent that to.
Right, Jay sent it, $9,679 will go, right, Jay Wilson, will go into the budget for the mutual aid for Brookline's share of that. And the other one was for Rescue Inc., and I called up and spoke with Norm down in Brattleboro, and Mr. Hazelton was outside the door, and Norm said he'd call me right back, or David would call me back, but he didn't call back. So I'm hoping by the next meeting, I will have the information about what this town's financial is on, for Rescue Inc. Those were the fees.
So you're not asking for the funding we're requesting, that comes in, because we're asking for level funding.
Right, we just didn't know the number.
Well, I'm
That is
talking
the-
about
For the annual request?
the annual
Right.
request, yeah.
Yeah, for Southwest
Level
Mutual.
funded again. So we're not gonna ask for an increase, but
Okay.
paying the mutual aid dues helps us a lot, because our mutual aid dues are about $22,000 a year. Because now since Williamsville, South Newfane Fire Department closed their doors, we have that additional income from the town of Newfane to pay for the dues. Because their dues were separate from ours. We have a lump sum of 22,000, let's say, okay? And Brookline pays 9,000,
9,000,
whatever.
yeah.
And Newfane pays so much, and then South Newfane and Williamsville paid so much. But now we gotta pay it all. So the towns are, by doing that, helps us a lot, because we had to replace one of our trucks, we didn't get a grant, and that's, 500,000 and up. So that this really does help us out a lot, and that's why we only ask for level funding. Because,
Well, my question, so the Newfane residents have to pick up the Williamsville costs, not Brookline's not picking it up, right?
no, it's all separated out, Jay separates it out.
Right.
But in Newfane, it's all together now, because
It's-
they don't have a fire department anymore. And we're hoping that they're gonna get the assets settled so that we would get the assets, the trucks and the station, to have a substation over there, because it's a long way from where we
Oh,
are.
so you would reactivate, you wouldn't look to sell it off for commercial purposes and then
No,
use that money to
They
pay for
use
it?
it at the second station.
There's a,
All right,
it's a complicated legal matter, and the attorneys are addressing it.
okay.
But, I don't know if I should bring this up, the rescue end of our operation, Dummerston and Eastover cannot field a crew anymore. So that means that we're gonna be called upon to cover their areas. And this is a trend that's happening throughout the whole state. So EMS service is really in trouble. And part of the problem is that the requirements for continuing education are so strict that volunteers just don't have the time to go and do all these courses.
I hear you.
It's geared to a paid department, and what they're trying to do, we think, is just do away with the volunteers.
Okay,
But a paid department will be a lot more expensive.
Sure, well,
of course.
So we're struggling with that right now too.
Is there a specific formula for that Southwest Mutual dues that we pay?
Yeah, there is, I don't understand it. It goes by the
Population?
grand list, I believe.
Okay.
I think that Jay Wilson knows more about it, but those dues keep going up. When I first joined the fire department in 2001, the dues were $14,000 for
Yeah,
the whole, everything.
Now you're 22.
Now it's 22, and it's gonna go up because they just had a board meeting, and, the insurances, workman's comp, all that stuff goes up, and that raises our dues.
Well, you know what I'm getting at. I don't know if there's a tipping point, because a small town like ours has just so much that we can
Right,
share it with, and
right. Well, that's why we always ask for level funding.
Yeah.
We don't ask for increases. Because, you know, being self-funded, we rely on donations
Tom,
and small funding.
I don't have a worksheet because I wasn't here last time.
Oh, I will get you one.
Thank you.
I put left it in the.
So that's all I gotta say.
All right, well, thank you. Would you do that? Yeah, I put her name on it. She's gonna get it for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, see you.
All right, so-
Thanks, Gary. Happy Thanksgiving to you and Julie.
Excellent.
Don't buy a butterball turkey though.
Why? Oh, wait,
New York Times, they had a big thing in
Oh,
there.
no.
is it salmonella?
No, it's a major problem at the factory. Somebody forgot to butter the balls.
Get out of here.
You walked into that dock, wow, both feet.
Didn't think we let you be Santa.
Okay, well, all right, so we'll go down to appropriations. Bad.
Bad.
All right.
He has many more like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna send you an
Yeah,
email.
yeah.
With the budget, when you start the budget, I did some soul searching and a little research, and I have a few figures that I'd like to share with you in regards to what you agreed upon and what I think might be advantageous for my department in the town office. So at some point, if you want to discuss them, or quite honestly, if you just want to wait till the next meeting, because it's you know, it's a holiday coming up, and I can wait till then. It's nothing, you know, nothing explosive, but there's a few things that I tweaked a little bit, and hopefully you'll agree with what I had to say.
With the municipal part?
Yes, right.
Okay.
And you know, there's basically it's relatively simple, but the bottom line is that maybe we can dedicate one meeting in the very near future to just strictly budget, because we're that close. And as far as the highway budget, the only thing I'm toying with is that with the possibility of us purchasing a piece of equipment, that's going to change the equations a little bit in regards to what we have for summer services, where we have rental and service agreements, which is at $39,000. If we were to purchase the machine, it would cost somewhere around $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month to own that machine. So that would also reduce our need to rent from other people. So that would reduce that $39,000 by a substantial amount. So
All right, so probably, well, I guess what I'm hearing you saying is maybe some of those we should revisit. Again, maybe when Samara can
Yep.
make it, she'd be good for that, and
And Mark's here.
and Mark is here,
Yeah.
for those items.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Good.
Makes sense. All right, we can take a look at our appropriations checklist. I'm gonna take one more look.
I didn't see it in the
Because I
bin,
know
so.
You know what, that's when I read them.
Yeah, we put
I could photocopy mine, or.
basically went all the way.
wait, I might.
One.
Don't even go there. You're gonna talk to Mr. Conservative over here.
We went all the way
In one
through Fund
respect.
1 and got,
I'm trying to change my ways. I need,
We have a
I need
few
a butch
gaps.
haircut and bow tie and glasses and suit and forget it.
I'll copy mine.
Guys,
Does I have an extra copy? Bruce, I put your name
I
on
got a
there.
copy.
well, it wouldn't be a bad idea to actually copy one that has
Yeah, the numbers,
Yeah.
that'd be
numbers that we
great.
went through already.
I got it here.
With the numbers would be great, because they'll.
You don't wanna fill it in?
never mind, Guy. She's gonna copy yours.
Okay,
She's got-
well, those are gonna be subject to change anyway, but okay.
Right, yeah.
Just a worksheet.
Alright, let's bang up these
It's
appropriations.
the pre-Bruce can do it.
Do we have
So
some?
I might want to open up those letters there in front of me. There's, I guess those are appropriations.
Should we all
These are
open a few?
appropriations.
Should we each
Do we
take some?
need to do it tonight, or?
Well, I think it'd be good if we could get through most of this. Ideally.
Yeah, let's get the appropriations.
For the ones that we-
And I guess Valley Cares is asking for one now too?
They're just late, but Samara had an illness, so she didn't get to send out her reminder like
Right.
usual, so we were giving him some extra time, but Valley Care seems a little further behind.
How much do they want?
I don't know, we gave him $821 last year.
$821?
What was that? So
Who's that?
Valley Cares?
You Valley Care,
You should have it on your,
Yeah.
when you get your budget.
Assuming it'll be based, yeah, it's on here.
Okay.
It's not a minute ago. Valley Care, 821 last time.
Yeah.
So this isn't necessarily a stack of appropriations requests.
This is,
I can
You
do
can
it.
go home.
Okay.
This one here?
Right.
These-
This,
That looks like a donation.
this is not, this is just a normal donation from Project.
Okay. Now,
This is just normal correspondence.
That's his correspondence.
That's just correspondence. It's not a specific appropriation. You should get that.
There were discussions.
I'm here, guys. Who's breaking
So where, how
Well,
are
this is lower.
I don't know how you're doing it.
By,
All right, we'll go through what we have.
that went up by $2,000.
Does everyone have the appropriations checklist given out a couple of weeks ago? This form?
I have.
There's what?
Do you have this? Okay, so this is maybe Bruce needs this form as well. Never mind.
Oh.
So you want me
Okay, so most of these are things that are already in the checklist.
Wait,
I'm
this
not-
Women's
not
Freedom
completely
Center.
sure
is-
why.
I think it was.
I don't know what she has.
Why she
Yeah.
has this, yeah.
So
No,
that
I know-
one's,
I know.
that one, yeah, that's the Women's Freedom.
Yeah,
So you can check that, because that's what Women's Freedom.
and it's already,
Yeah, she's already got it on the list.
More Free Library
Thank
is a
you.
new one from at least this list.
Right.
We actually have it.
So that was received in.
In the town, annual town report, you have a list of the appropriations for last year, they were all approved.
And I brought my report with me.
Not sure how we want to do this.
All right, so,
Flag the new ones.
I'm just gonna,
All right, she's got
Okay.
that listed down.
yeah, Gerda's, so it's American Red Cross. Okay, the ones that we haven't heard, Gerda's Equine Rescue,
That came through, right?
That came through.
that came in.
Yeah,
I think so.
today,
I think there was an email about it.
Yes, there was.
I saw an email, but I didn't see there anything about the actual request.
Who's that?
Gerda's Animal Aid.
We can go through the email, but I'm pretty sure
We'll
we
put
got an email request for
Is that
it.
40%?
That was one of the things Samara.
It's smart, yeah, she may have it put up.
All right,
Who came
so,
up with the idea of a 40% increase to Grace Cottage?
I don't know, but my suggestion, and I'll just say this as the town clerk, road commission, whatever hat you want me to wear. In light of the fact that we have escalating costs throughout the town, it was my thinking that we might want to consider cutting appropriations by 10% across the board. Only because, it's not because I don't care about people, but I care about our neighbors. And there are people struggling with taxes right now, even though our municipal side is only 15%, and 85% is education. The bottom line is that
This one's new.
somewhere we have to draw a line in the sand. And that was just a thing, something I considered. I looked at this budget very carefully in the last couple of weeks, and I realized that slowly but surely, things are starting to escalate. And I'm not singling any particular entity out, but just 2 years ago, we only had $9,000 for the fire department, we're now at $18,000. We have different expenses that have slowly escalated. We need these services, yes, but where
Okay.
do you draw the line in the sand?
Yeah, I don't know if I completely agree with the way you're going.
Okay,
but I agree with your philosophy.
It's just an observation and
I don't know
a
about
suggestion.
10%, but I have a problem with Grace Cottage wanting 40% more when we went over this last year,
Yeah.
when they're a profit-making
Why
organization.
don't we get the list and then.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
everybody
if
has a
people
list in
didn't,
front of them?
because if people
Yeah.
didn't submit, that will cut.
Right.
there.
Well,
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's a bunch here.
When was the deadline for
It's supposed to-
submitting?
it was supposed to be
More
the
free library
31st.
come through.
October
Okay.
31st.
But Samara did tell us that she
Didn't get the notice
Didn't
out?
get,
Yeah.
she did not contact people, as she thought she planned on it, so anything that came in by today, we should have had here.
Yes.
American Red Cross we received their appropriation, they were looking for level funding. The Connecticut River Transportation, also known as the Current, is looking for
So
level
would we go
funding.
by each
Oh,
one?
where,
I think we should go down.
wait, where are you
Yeah.
at? Okay, you're at the
One
top.
at a time.
top.
Go down the second list of numbers so that we know what has come in, so
Right.
then
Yeah.
we know
Like
we
I
know
said,
we can X out because they didn't apply.
Okay, well, all right, so the first two came in,
Yep.
August and September.
Yep.
Gerda's Equine Rescue, we had an email, but in the email, did it say that there was a response from it? So no, so,
There's no, I mean, the email is not a,
right.
It's an informational thing?
well, no, it's an email from Gerda's Equine Rescue to Sarah saying, thank you for reaching out, Sarah, though I guess I don't know what that means. Please let me know what we have to do for an appropriation request, and I will get it to you right away.
So that's
What's going on?
It's today's the day.
Yeah, no, so we don't have a request in.
Yeah.
What was it?
Right, although I do think it's worth noting that I don't know that we really properly informed any of these organizations
Exactly.
that we were changing
The way-
what they're historically used to as being the date for their appropriation request.
And was that some?
I know we all feel that we had set an earlier date, but if those people were never adequately informed of that, I'm not wild about sticking firmly to a date that we didn't tell people about.
The other thing is, I don't know if Samara has any other appropriations that she has in her cabinet.
Right.
I don't think that's the only appropriations we have. So it's really speculation.
let's
at this
table
point.
it.
kind of a
I'm gonna
request.
state the obvious.
She's asking what she
What's the
wants
point?
to, so it
Has
is
Samara
a
agreed, has Samara,
It is, but unfortunately, like in the case of the
Contact
Gerda
these
thing,
people?
but it doesn't say what they, how much
Right.
money they want, so I mean.
Table-
it's supposed to be
Table it
something
December
we can't really
5th,
table.
we're doing this.
wait a minute,
I'm,
has Samara contacted these people?
She sent us an email apologizing for the fact that she did not contact them as she intended to do it in a timely basis. I believe since the last meeting, she reached out to the people who have not responded. So if she reached out to things like Gerda's Animal Aid and such, they did not, she may have just done it. She hasn't been feeling well, she's had other things going on.
Okay.
So let's table, I heard a, is that a motion?
I make a motion to table this, and December 5th meeting is when it's decided.
Yes,
Okay,
and
I have a
if we,
motion on the floor.
We're wasting
Can I have a
time.
second?
second,
Seconded by Bruce, any discussion?
yeah. And, and, what was I gonna say? Oh man, brain crack. And Samara should be notified that the cutoff day is December 5th, so we need to know by then, by anybody. It takes our hands right out of it, and whatever we have on December 5th,
Yes.
we got.
All right, so we have a motion which has been seconded on the floor to table the appropriations request until the next meeting, December 5th, which would be the hard deadline. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will
So
table this and
to
I
Guy's
will
point,
email Samara.
to Guy's point, should December 5th be just basically a budget-only meeting,
Yes.
and we
Yes,
just,
because otherwise
blow
we're not gonna
through.
get anywhere.
Yeah.
do we wanna skip the rest of the budget now and do it December 5th? Because if we make it a budget-only meeting, we can just hammer it out that day and be done with it.
Well, basically, you have all the municipal side.
Well, but that's what we
Pretty well.
effectively did last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just do the highway and the appropriations and you're done.
So what,
Basically.
but you had suggestions still for the municipal?
Yes, I had some, I wanted to tweak it a little bit. I wrote it down on my paper and I based it upon actuary, what I actually spent, what was spent and what we needed. And, you know, it basically pertains to my budget, what, you know, what goes on in that office.
So do you wanna do that on the 5th?
Sure, I have it all written down. It's just a matter of reading some numbers out and that's it.
So can Samara come to this meeting, or she
Well, it is a Wednesday.
Yeah,
She
she
should be-
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
she can come.
She couldn't come tonight because it's
Sick.
Tuesday, she had something scheduled on Tuesday.
Oh,
I guess what I would suggest is that we reach out to Samara and verify that she can definitely be at the entirety of the December 5th meeting.
And
If
that's
we
also,
find for some reason that she can't, then I would suggest we have to have a special
meeting at her convenience, the date.
When she can do
Specifically,
it.
when she can do it,
Yeah,
to specifically
yeah, sure,
deal
Dave.
with the budget.
All right,
Because we need we need a meeting
To do that.
devoted to it, whether it's that or another one.
Yep, yep.
Hopefully it's that.
That always works very well.
And it would be nice to ask Samara to contact all the appropriations that we haven't heard
she
from.
has since recently.
That's the cutoff.
My impression is she has it.
It should have been October 31st for all reasons, that date and
Well,
everything.
yeah.
All right, so why
I
not,
move to table the entire budget discussion.
which is good.
You
All
wouldn't
right.
go home and watch.
We have a motion to table the budget discussion until December 5th, or until such date that our treasurer Samara Swift is available to meet with us.
I second it.
Okay, have a motion second. Any discussion?
I'd like to just discuss one thing, although I think we can hash all of this out when we go through the whole budget and once we figure out where we are with a bunch of other things. But I spent a considerable amount of time looking through the recycling numbers.
Oh, right.
And I think we need to, realistically, we need to budget significantly more money for.
At least 15,000.
Yeah, I think we might need to be.
Because I did the
higher
numbers.
than that.
Because the amount of lifting.
Well, we're paying
Really, because of the
$115.
cost of what it costs.
We're paying
to get rid of it.
$115 a ton, $130 per truckload, that's at least once a week. $264 a week times 52 comes to 13,000, so 15,000 I think is.
And we're picking up at a higher
More,
rate than that. We're picking up at more like
72 tons.
4.5 times. Anyway, I've got a whole bunch of numbers about it. I don't want to
So we're paying for
way
the average
into it
town
now, but
to ton.
Yes,
Well, there's no way we can stop that unless,
unless you wanna sit there and.
No, that's not what I'm applying, I'm just applying that when it goes up, that we're gonna have to explain to the town at town meeting that we have an uncontrollable situation, and they have their choice, either to appropriate the money that's needed for the recycling, or close it down.
You're asking for a special article?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, when the budget's reviewed at town meeting, if anybody bitches about it, that's the choice.
Well, that would be an item to talk about as far as cutting. We have to realize that we've been very frugal. We were actually, what, $20,000 under the budget. We had a surplus last year at the end of the June, about $20,000.
You know, it's a,
So, we also have to talk about returning some of that money and/or putting it for special needs here and
But Don,
there.
I don't see that surplus as much as you're saying. I don't know where you got those figures from.
Said treasurer.
and the
Well-
question is,
we
the
ended
three-letter
the
word,
last fiscal year with a surplus.
but the three-letter word is why? Where's the surplus coming?
No, part of that surplus, let me just interject this. Part of
Here
that
we go.
surplus is that we used money that we collected for delinquent taxes and we applied it into the year prior. We need to get the delinquent taxes kind of squared away. There's some numbers that aren't making sense to me, and as the delinquent tax collector, I know what the numbers should be or might be. And I think there just has to be an adjustment. I think Samara will have to go over that because I think that's where our surplus is, it's a little false, that surplus.
Then
Unless it
maybe
gets
that
applied to the following
Right.
year.
And maybe that should be addressed first up on December 5.
Yeah, just to get a clarification, and she would be best to be here, because what happens is, we have 60 days that we can use money that we collect in the next fiscal year to pay off other things. So some of that money has been applied this way and back way. Last year, we had a deficit of $34,000, which we reduced because we used the home equity loan and some other money.
Right.
So this year, I'm not so sure that surplus is what you may think it is.
I just was very pleased that we were not in the,
Oh, yes,
on that.
well, part of it is that we didn't have the legal, legal problems that we've had through the last couple of years. That doesn't mean it can't rear its ugly head.
All right, so we're looking at, we're in discussion of that movement to table the rest of the words, budget thing. And we've had a discussion about changing some of the fees that we've already established. None of this is in rock right now, in stone, however. But any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of tabling the rest of the budgetary decisions to December 5th or to such a date that our treasurer is available to discuss this, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will then table.
Who seconded that?
Bruce did.
Linda or Bruce?
Bruce did. Appropriations, number 4, highway fund budget B. Do we want to talk about the new equipment or any, no?
Well, the only thing is that I've spoken with the company that we're thinking of purchasing the new machine from, and he indicated that he would be able to hold it for us until March. And I've been now talking to the People's United Bank in regards to what it would cost for a loan. Their rate is 3.75. I spoke with Vermont Treasurers Association, and they have a program where they fund 75% of the used equipment, 75% of the value of the used equipment up to $110,000, which would mean in our case $94,000, which means that we would have to put $18,000 down. They would fund the other 75% at 2%. So that's a much reasonable rate. And again, that money is in the state budget, and he says right now he feels very comfortable that there will be sufficient funds for next year. He says, but nothing's in cement.
Sure.
So those are our two options. I didn't go to the bonding company because the bonding doesn't start until December, and I wasn't sure if we were ready to do that.
Right, I think we're going to end up having to put this on something at the town meeting for that kind of.
Oh yes, no, that's a given, and that's why I said to the bank and to the Vermont Treasurers Association that we won't know until probably March 6th, whenever the town meeting is, and then he says, okay, I'll be waiting for you in April. So those are the two options that we have.
So that's the new equipment, the salt sand shed, I haven't received anything new on that. And road improvements, we haven't, that will be part of the.
No, and the crack and seal program, I did pencil in 2 days, but the weather turned drastically different, so I don't think that will be in our cars, but you know, I don't think it's gonna happen this year, to be honest with you.
But it will still happen could happen in the spring.
It could, yeah.
Couple miles of roads, so that would be good. All right.
And the other thing is,
wait, so I'm just going through what we're tabling, and then we can
I'm sorry.
do that. That's all right. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. You're a good guy. You're on anyway. You can talk about your town clerk update.
The town clerk is really nothing, and just expediting this meeting, I'd like to just say that we have 126 dogs registered. I'm preparing our vital records and our different reports that are required for the end of the year, and things are going okay. Gwen has been working on the land records book. She's at a point now where we're up to book 22, and we started with book 40 working backwards. At 22 we have reached a roadblock because none of that information is in a computer,
23.
and we would have to basically type every one of those pages in there. 23, okay. So what we're doing now is we're going back and also putting in the margins, like when a deed is discharged, a mortgage is discharged, you have to go back to the original mortgage and put in the margins. She's been doing that now, and she's almost close to finish with that. So we've made a lot of progress. Everything's in the cloud. God forbid if there's a catastrophic event in our vault, we at least have 20 books or 23 books that we, almost 20.
How far does it go back, 1800?
Goes back to 1786 or 17 something, in the 1700s.
Really?
But some of that, and the funny thing is that some of that ink is disappearing, it's going away. So, you know, hopefully we can get this done sooner rather than later, but, you know, it is what it is. Basically, what we really need is 40 years. That's what most mortgage companies go for, the last 40 years. And that's where they can, you know,
Find out.
make
Can
their
you read
decisions.
back that far to the 1780s? Can you still read?
Oh, yeah,
It's
yes,
fading.
oh, yes.
Rating.
They had beautiful handwriting though, didn't they?
Yeah, it was nice, it was beautiful.
And we're gonna have to have a company probably come do it because the books don't come apart.
Yes,
Yeah, that's where we've been appropriating every every $10 that we charge to record a page, $2 goes into a fund. And we have, I don't know, $8,000 or $10,000 in that fund that will be used. But those companies that do that are pretty expensive. But they're fast and they're very efficient. Yep.
Sweet.
That's the town clerk update. Now we can move right into, you can switch hats and put on your road commissioner. Anything new on the road commissioner since Mark's not here? Any current projects or any news on the Putney Mountain tree removal for the winter?
No, I know Mark has been in touch with Lafayette Guardrail Company. They have some used guardrails that we may be able to use. We also, Mark is thinking about the tree situation, but some things have turned around now because of the weather. We were fortunate enough to get the blacktop done, and also Springfield Paving did that little strip over by the bus company, and they just submitted a invoice for $300, which I thought was very reasonable.
Yep.
So that's been taken care of. Like I said, we lost the crack and seal opportunity because of the weather. And right now, I think, quite honestly, I think Mark is starting to skinny down now because there's not really much he can do because of the weather.
Yeah.
It's basically a snowplow operation now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so anything else under there?
What about the tree removal, Putney Mountain?
That's something that he can do when the road is quiet, and right now the road is very quiet because you got 2 or 3 inches of slush and stuff. And I don't know what his schedule is and what he can do with his equipment, but he may be able to get in there with 3 or 4 inches of snow. I don't know that.
He's gonna work up an estimate. You probably didn't.
I read it in the minutes.
He's gonna work up an estimate. He thinks he has a piece of equipment that he could work on taking down a lot of those trees while the road is closed.
Oh, up further.
Up beyond John's.
Because every time we have a windstorm, trees come down and he's got to come out. So
How many are there? 20, 10?
He said it's over 100.
Yeah.
Whoa!
he's got a small harvester machine that grabs, cuts, slices, and
Oh,
dices. So,
that's great.
yeah, so.
Because they don't hit the mud and make it right in my house.
All right.
My log land.
Great. All right, so now we'll go down to old business. I'm gonna slow down, we're going a little too fast here.
No, we're good.
You do not need to slow
All
down.
right.
Not at all.
For the record, you do not need to slow down.
Sunny Lane Daycare
Okay,
update.
I can't eat and talk. My wife
All
would
right,
kill me.
so you're not gonna talk?
Oh, yes, I am.
Oh, is he done?
Yay! All right,
All right. You want me to talk? Okay.
well, we can just do a quick summary.
Like I'm up
See
plan.
what you're all,
I'm up plan. Okay, update time because it's been a month. Take a breath. All black splashes are finished.
pass out some food, I'm gonna be hungry while he's talking.
The south vents in the south part of the old
Some
building.
of us have things to do right now.
Oh. All back.
Jordan, would you care to join a dental fund?
No,
As we speak about Sunny Lane Daycare, we get our candy from them.
All backsplashes are finished. The south vent in the old building is finished. All the decks are finished. Dave's coming back in 2 weeks roughly, and we're gonna look at every single inside door in the building. There are several, one in the infant room is coming right off the hinges. The one I told you last time when they put the closer in downstairs, the screws go into nowhere for the hinges. Doesn't work very well. Dave replaced some clapboards, especially in the critical spot where the damage was in the north deck facing the church. We're gonna reanalyze that in the spring, making sure it's really a pretty easy process for replacing clapboards. There's something else about him. In the spring, Dave's gonna come back, and that's when we can attack the trim, because now that, remember the email I sent you that, of what Marcia told me, that building's been tested, and there's also a very small test kit you can buy
Oh,
at
for the
Duff
paint,
Perkins.
lead paint, right.
Yeah, there's no lead in that building from what she was saying, which was really great news. So Dave and I can we can go to town on that north trim and vent that as well, and any other trim around the outside of outside of any of the buildings, either one of the buildings, will get replaced in preparation to prime and paint the building, so hopefully by the end of this time next year. Okay. The issue that happened on the 5th of this month, where the UV system acted up again. I was here in the town office and got a copy of the bill that Scott Bovat sent through. And basically what happened was the system was dirty and needed the sleeves and the sensors cleaned. Okay. And the issue was no water. So he shut down the UV system, unplugged the units, pulled the filter cartridge, removed the bulbs, flushed the lines, cleaned the UV sleeves and sensors, reinstalled the sleeves, bulb sensors and cartridges, run it and tested it, and at the bottom he said, no, need to discuss maintenance schedule for UV system. Just a moment. And he also replaced, with the plumbing parts, was two 5-micron 4-inch by 20-inch filter cartridges they replaced. So I put a call into, I had two things going on today. I put a call into Scott, he called me back, and we were talking about this, and we were talking about the issue with the drain in the addition, which I'll get to in a second. We discussed this. He was supposed to call me back tonight and didn't, and what we're going to do is work up a situation. I'm trying to get it so that he, myself, and Mark, or he, myself, and then I can convey it to Mark, on a schedule to maintain that UV system.
To learn how to deal with the alarms and that.
Well, to learn how to keep it clean so this doesn't happen again.
Right.
Because every time, this is a $244 bill, every time he walks in that building, it's $250 to $500 every single time. He's doing a great job. We'd be dead without him. I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying every time that thing squeaks, we're spending at least $250 to $500. So it's to our advantage. It's to our advantage to have me me and Mark to know as much about that system as possible, so that we can eliminate that cost. Okay, now, like I alluded to, we also had a situation with the drainage that's been going on since I started working on the backsplashes with Dave back in late June. The toddler room was just a slow running drain.
I'm going to interject here for a second. I sent out an email based upon Olivia's identification that it includes the old part of the building that was not draining, which would be the infant room and the front. It's the addition, the new part of the building that was having the problem. Where we replumbed the lines are working fine. Okay, I'm sorry, I just wanted to
no, that's fine.
what's
If you
wrong.
want to interject, just stop me and go for it.
Okay.
That's good. Okay, that works. So, I've been pretty pissed off about it all summer because I worked when I was hanging out with Dave and doing other stuff, carpentry or whatever, when we were working on the backsplashes. That was getting underneath my crawl pretty good. I couldn't get that drain to work right. I had drain loaded it like 2 to 3 times, and it was not right. And then I put a call into Vermont Sewer and Drain just before I went to the gate and told them, it's going to get worse. I don't know if the issue's here, but it's not going to get better. And Dave and I cleaned the filter out in the septic that one day, hoping that would correct it, and that wasn't the issue. So then we had an issue yesterday where Doc, I was over with Dave Lesko, and you came over, and Olivia called you because the toilets weren't working.
Right. They weren't flooding, they just weren't flushing.
Yeah. So I immediately went home and called Vermont Sewer and Drain, and
the reason why you called Vermont Sewer and Drain is because Scott Bovat said there's nothing that he can do at this point. He needed to have the equipment to go down the lines with the camera and look. That's why he called Vermont Sewer and Drain. So Olivia called Scott. Scott didn't come down yesterday, so we did not pay a plumber bill yesterday.
Correct. So I called then Vermont Sewer and Drain twice, the second time this morning, because Olivia called me again this morning about 9:30, and I knew it wasn't going well. And I called him again, and he called me back.
Okay.
And he came right over. Olivia and Tina were a little more amenable to let us come in and try and work it out. And then, actually, he came there before me. I had other things to do, and I didn't really see him. And the plan was for Olivia to call me when he was getting ready to leave, so I could discuss him with that. And I didn't know he had gotten the bill, that he had sent the bill for the first time and gotten paid for it. So I wanted to get all of this straightened out. He just got up and left. So that didn't go well. So I went home, called him, and he interrupted me. He said, "Time out. The problem with the drain in the new building is that there's a sag in the drain in the basement." So explicitly,
Where that
I'm
leak
telling you.
was?
I'm going to tell you.
No.
Yes.
Oh, no.
No, just a minute. Let me explain. Okay, let's not get all freak out here. You know where the little sink is when you walk up the stairs into the storage room and there's a little sink on the left-hand side? Just above it, there's big 4-inch cast iron drainage, goes right into the wall, goes into the ceiling of the walkway in part, and goes right into our favorite room, where the leak was. Had over a half an hour discussion with Dan from Vermont Sewer and Drain, and basically there's a dip in the drain, and that's what's causing the backup. That explains why water permits to go after a while, and it's not. And I even told them at Sunny Lane Daycare, it's nothing you guys are doing. Obviously, you guys are doing right, because if we had a solid issue, we'd have a real problem. And there wasn't a solid issue. This is a buildup of water, and it causes it to slow down and stop. And because by rights, when you have drainage, if you won't have done plumbing, I bought my house, it should be draining 1/4 inch to a foot downwards. So obviously that's probably been violated, and
It's a cast iron pipe though.
yes, and still you slope it. And Dan said that could be that there's a hanger that might have broke, so you would have cast iron.
That would be an easy fix.
Pardon me?
That would be a real easy
Yes,
fix.
it would be an easy fix. But the problem here is, it is cast. And over the period of time, and I have some cast in my house, mine is my major drain, we'll need to get into that. And it has a tendency to get really kind of crappy on the inside of the drain,
Yeah, it
like
oxidizes.
wears.
It oxidizes it.
Yeah, and from water, from
So is
rust.
it cheaper to replace it? Can it be replaced? Is that a big deal?
So then I called Scott. And after over half an hour discussion with Dan, and he's coming over after Thanksgiving with I told him, sounds like we're gonna have to rip the ceiling out, which means the tiles in the basement, and possibly that little 8-foot section in the walkway, that's sheetrock. He said, well, we'll time out. Let me look at it. Maybe there's something we can do to straighten this out. Then after the phone call, I started thinking about it, so well, maybe it is just a broken hanger, which what Dan was alluding to from us Sewer and Drain, which would explain this. Don't know. Cast iron's heavy. It's real heavy. It's heavy by the foot. So who knows what happened? But obviously he said with the scope you can see the water buildup. It's like that in the drain from about a length of about 25 feet. Okay. So it's settling, and then it permits it to go a little bit and settles some more, and that explains everything I said prior to what's happening in the toddler room. But now it's getting, at this point in time, it was getting a little worse because now the toilets weren't flushing. So Scott's gonna, after Thanksgiving, we're gonna get together and take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay, I'm getting there. I still have to find somebody to service the boilers. Leave that to the side for a minute. And I've got to call Momomany about. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I know what I'm doing here. The idea is to try and save $7,000 or $8,000 to fix those south windows next year, but that's going to take us till June or July. It's going to be a hard road to hoe, considering what's going on with all the expenses. But I've been. Was that?
We're never gonna have the money for that.
We'll see. It depends on. we're looking at, what, 1,300 times 6?
To be discussed.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
It's, yeah.
It's a little bit of a steep climb.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm still keeping in contact with Mo Mame about it. And I think I'm gonna tell him, try and keep us in mind to around midsummer, and we'll see what's going on. I do have this conversation going with him, and he's going in for hip replacement surgery next week, double hip replacement surgery. So I've got a real good rapport with him, so I'm trying to keep, I wanted him to put us down in the schedule, and he told me to call back the first part of March to remind him so that we don't get knocked out for next year. I mean, because Sophie doesn't do it until towards the end of the summer. That's good too, so as long as we get it done. Lastly, I think, a couple of things. The lease, you and I talked about it after, when we conclude, when you get a minute, and after the budget meeting, we should plan an executive
I'll have
session.
copies, I'm gonna send copies of the minor revisions, really minor revisions on the lease and revisions. We might wanna go into executive session to talk about that, because that would be contractual discussions.
And
I won't do that maybe I'll do it on the second meeting.
Dot and I had a real productive discussion for a couple hours and got it all ironed out. She's
Won't
got,
that change, yeah.
Although, can I just ask, well,
Go
let's
ahead.
finish this and let's talk about the timing of the lease.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just about done. So, lastly, is this list I gave you all should be less than a page once I redo it. I've gotten a ton done, it's been a good year.
Yep.
Not as much as I wanted to do, and what else is new, that's me.
No, it's not you, it's,
Well,
Circumstances.
it's my attitude. But we've gotten a lot done, and I got, like I've said before, I've got my hands around the throat of this building, and I'm not letting go until it's right. So hopefully, if we can get past the two issues of the drainage and the UV system constantly pulling on our chain, we can start putting some money down. We still have the $2,000 bill we gotta pay in January for the insurance.
Yeah.
So know all that, but, and Dave's gonna come back next spring, but, oh, one other thing I wanted to tell you. I tried to get a reasonable number of what Dave's cost us and what the materials it cost us. I don't have an exact number, but it looks like about $3 grand for him is what I was looking at for the entire, so everything that he's done. And I think about $1,700 in building materials, but don't hold me to it. It's kind of a general.
But it looks good, it looks great.
It's coming along. You see where they put lights on the railing in the front?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Looks really
Snowmen
nice.
and lights, yeah, it looks
Oh, I
really
can see
nice.
that.
So whenever I get around to it, I'll make an updated list for you guys.
We
And
ran into a winter plan.
that's about it.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Okay. All right, we'll move on down to the town report. Chris, you sent a great email out on November 20th where you talked about the town report and looking at what VLCT requirements are and how we might be able to save money in the mailing and the printing by reducing the mail out and reducing some of the parts or reports that go into what we print up in this nice magazine.
Right.
Okay, so, I think everybody just wants to say, oh, but this is such a nice keepsake and you get all this sort of information, but we, some of this could be put online in a special spot. And as far as your question about who's responsible for the report, it really is the auditors.
Right, but I mean, so the only thing that
Audit.
needs to get mailed is the audit.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked
That's
about
the
wanting to
warning
save
in the
some
audit?
money. Well, the
Warning.
warning we typically put in there, you can warn it anywhere,
So we warn things.
because you have to warn it in the paper, correct?
Right.
Yeah, we have to mail it out, and normally we
Right.
mail it out in that particular
Right.
publication.
Right. So, I
Yeah,
guess
we
the
don't,
question-
to clarify though, we don't publish our warning anywhere else
Okay.
than in that. We don't,
And
we
that's,
don't publish it
that
in the
meets
paper
the
because
criteria
we're
that we
writing
need
in
to
that.
meet. Yep.
So the thing is like, to be within the law, it's just the audited report is
Right.
what has to be published and mailed to people within 10 days in advance or more of the town meeting.
Mhm.
But we would have to get the warning out as well. So what isn't needed, and where we had a flurry of questions last meeting was, well, do certain groups have to publish any report? And it turns out, no. I mean, those are like nice to haves, although if you're hunting people down for months, is it nice? Is my question, since I'm the one hunting. But, so there are things we don't need. So like the dedication, we don't need it, that doesn't have to be in there.
Right.
Select board report, we have our minutes, so
I
technically we
think
don't
we
have to publish.
do. We do have our minutes and
Yeah.
and we're online and
We're online.
But isn't that the same thing, the town clerk report, isn't that the same thing, cause he does the minutes?
So here's the deal with the town clerk report. I didn't want to say we don't need it if you feel it's necessary, but if, you know,
To be honest with you,
We're
I-
not required to.
Right.
right, I don't find it necessary to,
The only
I
thing he
think
puts in
people
is the
know what we
vital
do in the
reports and
town
stuff.
office.
right.
Like you said, the statutes clearly state that the only thing we need to do is put the town's financials in there, the audit.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. And it's gotta be warned, and we use that report as the warning. So
Yeah.
those are the only two absolutely things that you have to do.
Right. So if we
And
want to
those
save
have
money,
to be mailed.
They don't, because there are towns that just, say that you can pick it up at the
Pick it
post
up at the
office, you can
post
pick it up at the town clerk's office, or you can put that whole thing online.
I
you
would
know.
just look at the audit one. It looked like the statute says that one has to be
Yeah.
sent.
So this is the
But the other
auditor's
stuff-
report?
Well, they go over
That
the
along with the.
Yeah.
The numbers.
All the
Yeah.
numbers.
Which is basically.
But the school report, we are not
We don't do that
obligated to
anymore.
publish.
Right, the school report is voted on in February.
Yeah.
Right.
We
It's
don't
voted
need it.
on in February.
Well, that's changed now
Well, it's
because
different, 'cause
it's
all
now
the-
a different school board.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not the,
The numbers.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, we
Numbers
also don't have the
depend
school board
their
meeting
reports.
anymore.
They do.
I was gonna say sometimes.
So, so we don't need to
Sure.
put the other committees that are in this town in there. We don't have to have a select board report. We technically don't need to have a town clerk report. I think the vitals are nice to
Right.
have, you know.
but again, in today's world, the vitals are an issue now because some people are worried about identity theft
Yeah.
and different things, so it's a
Okay.
changing, it's a changing world.
Right.
Can I get a word in for a second?
Yes,
I think
Bruce.
great, thank you. Bang. I think this idea is great. I don't know how much cost savings this is gonna be. I think it's a great idea.
It's not huge,
Okay.
is the
That-
thing I'll
this is what
point
I'm
out.
alluding
We
to.
don't save, I
This is what-
mean, this entire thing, including the mailing, is $1,000.
Time out.
The mailing itself is $90.
All right.
So if we don't mail it,
I-
we save ourselves $90.
It's a headache
All
saver.
right.
It's a headache saver,
Yeah.
but it's not,
I would
to be
be
fair, it's
really
not huge
careful
cost
about
savings.
making a dramatic change in this because being in the town 40 years, it's kind of a tradition to have this. And what I really oppose more than anything else, of course I'm not gonna like this, is eliminating the dedication. I think it's a nice warm thing. We have very few things that bring this community together. This is kind of what I've been trying to
Well,
fight
we've
for.
already dedicated the schoolhouse, the church, the town office, people that have died, there's not much left to be.
I get what Bruce is saying because we have town reports in there from the from the 1900s, and people have gotten used to those and they're archived. People go back and refer to those reports. I have used those reports on a number of times to find out some information. So it's kind of a yin-yang thing. I know where
And
you're
I
coming
think
from.
I kind of agree because so many things today have changed that they're getting rid of so many of the old
Old school.
I can't think of what,
Are we showing our age, Gwen?
I am old.
Can I just clarify something though, I think, is that I don't think we're talking about getting rid of having a town report.
Right.
I think we're talking about getting rid of
Page 3.
some of the content that quite frankly, I don't think anyone looks at,
Yeah.
nor is it easy for us to get anyone to produce.
Yeah.
Good point.
So I think we're talking about reimagining it and revamping it,
So
somewhat.
you're pointing to.
which could also have some cost savings, not
The
necessarily.
old reports were only this big.
The
They were-
frustrating area is to hunt people down for these committees.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people not respond last year, and I know that it didn't make it in the year before either. You give a timing based on the previous year, and people get up in arms with you over that. The meeting house hasn't met this year, right?
Right.
So it's like,
Just recently.
do we?
Yeah,
Well, the report kind of is like a little screwy. It's a report that's supposed to be for the year, but our fiscal year
Right.
is in the middle of the year.
Right.
So some of those things.
So it's really hard to write a report when you haven't really had the year.
Right.
And there are 18 pages for the school report in this.
That,
18 pages is for the
Right.
school.
And we are not.
all of that should go.
You're not obligated to publish it anyway, because we also vote on it in February.
Yeah.
The school
right,
sends
right.
out everything that's in this report
Yeah.
to us under separate envelope.
and that's where some of the
The
mistakes
the 18
were.
pages is Leland Raiders at Newbrook.
What's that?
The town, the school
Really?
report made
18 pages?
the mistake in the
Or
It's a
Newbrook.
combination.
voting or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they.
like Chris says.
All right, one person, wait, let's do a little,
Okay, let's let Bruce
The boss.
finish his thought.
Okay.
and then-
Bruce,
I don't know.
go ahead, what were you saying, that this
The
is?
point is, what Chris is saying, Newbrook votes on theirs the second week in February, I think it is. It's about the same time as Leland and Gray. It's all done and over with. And plus they both, excuse me, I don't think, does Newbrook put out their own copy of the report?
They mail a copy.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And Leland and Gray, you get it right up at Riverbend. So to replicate that.
But this is the
basically-
last year for Newbrook. Everything will be WMURD.
Right.
So there is no more Newbrook
Right.
report.
Right.
So that's
Right, they're
a
not doing a
simplification. I love that
Say-
idea.
I'm sorry.
I don't think Newbrook's doing a budget because they're being absorbed.
Right, they're being absorbed by
Right.
the district.
Still
Correct.
produce him, right?
So we're looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
maybe reducing
Yeah,
this
it's a good one.
report into 50%
I
size.
thought about it.
Because we don't have 18 pages of the school report, and we don't need to do things, like, I understand. I like to see the warning,
Yeah.
I like to see the town officers elected and those that are appointed, and.
Yeah. I wanted to give you what we have to do
Yeah,
because
right.
we were not understanding what we had to do.
Right.
And what you have to do is minimal. You know, and then we can make it what we want it to be, but we don't have to add all these extraneous things that are the more difficult things to attain, or the school stuff, which doesn't make sense.
I need a ghostwriter.
I know, you've got like 17 things to report on this year.
So,
Or put in things that are a little more pertinent.
I agree. I think.
So you don't have to do your town clerk report now because you do the minutes. The only thing you knew is the vital statistics and the doggy report and
Is that what we're doing on that?
You're discriminating.
the doggy report.
Because you kind of do like a year in review when you.
Yeah, it's a summary.
Yeah.
And, you know, basically,
Do you feel
I
it's
know.
worthwhile?
well,
He,
I don't, let me put it this way, I don't enjoy doing it, but I know what people hopefully gain from it.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of refreshes, yes, we had the Easter parade for the kids, I mean, the Easter thing,
Yep.
or we did this, and they, oh yeah, Green Up Day, oh yeah, this.
And
So
they-
it does
they-
tie the community together to a degree.
and we
Not-
have had a lot of comments saying they really loved it. You know, they liked hearing the
positive stuff.
commentary. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Whatever we can put in there is positive.
Do we have to publish the meeting minutes from the previous town, previous?
Again, that was because
Original
people
town meeting.
requested it, I guess. I inherited that, so I don't know where that came from, to
It's
be honest with
posted
you.
online, it's hanging up in the office, it's been on the website since last spring.
But you'd be surprised
A lot
how
of
many people
pages.
refer to it like, what did they say at the meeting, what was that?
Or what did we appropriate last year?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Maybe, I'm asking for a little
That's
trouble
what I'm
here.
I mean, I've seen it
it
used.
happened last year. At the meeting.
I'm asking for a little trouble here, but maybe I should make a report up, oh, I shouldn't say this, I don't believe I'm saying this, of what was done in that building this year. Because nobody really knows what was done with that building. I think they should understand, that they
Are you
was the
saying,
building.
you're saying that you'd like to increase the,
The report.
I'm saying, you know how you put a report in?
I think Jay said.
We're gonna take the 18 pages that we just cut
Bruce is gonna go try.
school, and Bruce is gonna do a free form.
But you don't have to worry about
I'm
that.
not editing it.
Now, Dave made the valid
Right
point
to Dave.
that it doesn't matter how many pages, the setup is what really costs.
I see it.
The setup of the report.
Yeah.
So it's not.
I mean, we can cut half of the pages out of it,
And not
and if
really
we
say-
still do the rest of it, we're not gonna save very much money.
So I'll put
But we will save a lot of headache,
Time, because time
And-
to be more proactive.
both on our part and the people who are trying to come up with, not to pick on the planning commission, but, you know,
they
the
published the town
paragraph
plan
of-
last year,
Yeah.
and yet didn't talk about it. You know, they were working on the town plan as this was happening. Didn't talk about it in their update. It just said we had meetings, and this is who we are. And
What I have in mind is more like doing something like this or half a page. Excuse the chocolate in my mouth, that's a little bit.
You can do
And
a
explain-
select board report, which if you'd like, it doesn't have to be done by the chair, which you can say, which would be part of the school, we did the school, we did the round schoolhouse, we did the, no.
he needs to
I'm
write
trying to-
18 pages of
I'm alluding to something here.
this building.
And which I'm gonna add, we've talked about a little bit, I mentioned before. There should be a building commissioner in this town, considering the amount of buildings we have and the attention that needs
We
to.
can't
We're
get
having
anybody to
trouble
volunteer for.
Wait a minute,
We're
wait a
having-
minute, wait a minute,
Let him finish.
Jesus Christ,
Well,
yes.
but can I just say, we're talking about the town report, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the physician doesn't get filled like the road commissioner doesn't get filled. I'm saying we need a building commissioner to take care of the buildings in this town.
But this town report,
Yeah, it should be right here. An appointed position by the select board on what do you call organization day. That should be a part of that. You got a road commissioner, you should have a building commissioner. You got how many buildings here? 1, 2, 3, 4 anyway? And you saw the amount of work that was done in that one building this summer.
As
And
an
that's just one
appointed
building.
or-
I could go near the other
I
stuff.
don't have a problem with that, I don't have a problem adding it up.
You mean I'll get a custodian for in here? I don't have to wash the floors and scrub the.
I didn't say that.
I think
I don't disagree, although that's something we should put on the agenda to discuss.
But that's not the point
This
right now.
isn't appropriate to be talking about this.
so. The auditors.
No, I just mean, we didn't warn in this meeting that we were gonna talk about creating a
I
new
get it.
position.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
Yeah, I'm
I
just
think
throwing that out.
to have a real discussion, it should be on an agenda for future
Yeah,
meetings.
I just wanted-
I don't disagree with you.
I know that.
I just think,
I'm just throwing it out there.
that's all.
But that's just a part and parcel of what I was making a comment about, doing a small report on what was done with that building, because I don't believe the town understands the amount of volume of work that it takes to take care of those buildings
Yeah.
that they chose to buy back for nothing. It wasn't for nothing.
It's an
It
expensive
wasn't all.
dollar.
It's an expensive situation, and it hasn't cost this town a cent. They should know what's going on, and this is part and parcel of trying to maybe get some people to contribute their time to help work on the buildings. God help me. I mean, no one do great, but you know, you never know. It's just all a part of getting the community interested in what you have. And if you don't tell them what you have, they're not gonna know it.
All right, I'm gonna pick up the gavel here.
What's he
I'm
talking
gonna
about?
make a suggestion, I'm just gonna go through this very quickly. In our town, we have a cover, we have a general information page, which is good, a table of contents page, that we probably need to be keeping, the warning page, and then we got elected and appointed officials, the auditor's report, and the town minutes are already done in 2017, so, 2018, that's okay. Select board report, which could include some of the information that I'm working on. You can contribute, I'll ask everybody if anybody wants to, I'll show you what I have, and you can say, because this is due the 15th of December, the select board report, so by the 5th, I should have my section done, and you can take a look and add to it. So, but then after that, we do keep the operating budget, which is pages 16 and 17, 18 and 19, is still that. Town employee compensation doesn't have to be in it, but it is budgetary, so that's pages 20 and 21. Consolidated balance sheets and highway analysis is 22, 23. And then there is a page for meeting house and school building funds, page 24. We don't need the treasurer's report, listers, road commissioners, Brookline meeting house, Brookline planning commissioner. You can do a town clerk's report.
That's up to
So,
Can I just say, I'm not sure that I would agree that we don't need a treasurer's report.
Okay.
given that the bulk of what we are producing, if
Is
when we're doing
finances.
this, is finances, so I think it's possible it would still be beneficial to everyone if there was a treasurer's report.
So what I wanna get out of this is, should I be telling the committees they don't need to produce reports?
Which committees?
All of them.
All of them?
Yes, all of the ones that are ancillary committees. So cemetery,
Listers.
meeting house, planning, road, I mean, you wanna talk about
Listers.
Listers.
No, I don't need to talk about highways.
Do you want
We
the
can
town?
also write,
Yeah.
you mean also write to the school board.
I will let Alicia know, she doesn't have to produce anything.
Scotty doesn't have to send something to us, the
Right.
superintendent doesn't have to send it to us. 'Cause
The thing I'd say is it's, for the school, because I had to reach out and get all the stuff from them, the school produces all of this stuff.
Right.
Whether we may not be using it, but other towns are using it, so we reach out to them and say, can you send us the stuff you've already produced? So I think probably it would be good for us to give them a heads up to say, FYI, we're not going to include that stuff in our town report
I will,
anymore.
I can let them know.
But Scotty writes this report,
And he does
whether
mail
we're
it out
gonna do
to
it
us,
or
we
not.
do get it on
Or
the
he
second
did, he
envelope.
might, yeah.
Right. Yeah, you get that in the mail, I think.
The Scottish report.
So I'm gonna so here's what I'm gonna do. All these committees, these are all the people I've been trying to track, right? So the committee's out, right? Town clerk, yes, no?
I don't know if it's necessary, but,
Okay.
I can submit a report, but,
Do you want to do it? I'm giving you your out if you want.
well, I would like to maybe try it
Okay,
and see what kind of backlash we get, if
Okay.
any, and say, gee whiz, no report, no this, it would be interesting to see what people miss.
So
And say-
if we get a lot of complaints saying, well, what happened to this report and this report?
What do you
Then
think?
maybe we'll have to put it back in next year.
you will.
Well, what do you think of the cemetery report, Doc?
We won't be.
That's a pet thing for you, Doc.
I forget.
Okay, so let's,
The second-
Jackson, town clerk, will the report, not you. You have to stay.
Thank you guys.
And no road commissioner. And then, I'll alert Bill Anton and Scotty that we're not putting school things in the report this year. Okay.
Yeah, because Scotty puts that information in the front page of his budget report.
Yeah, and that comes as a newsletter anyway, so,
It's a duplication of effort.
Yeah, it is.
18 pages.
and so,
What's the point?
and
I
then,
mean, there's been good reasons that these things have been in. I mean, as a town resident, it's nice if I'm interested in these things to know that I have them all in one place. And I don't have to go try to figure out where Scotty's report is and stuff like that.
But the thing is that now,
They're less
because of the
relevant.
electronics that we have,
Yeah, it's,
pretty much anybody can go online and find all that information.
electronics, the merger, so,
I encourage you to try going to any of these schools' websites and actually
Yeah.
finding things though, but
and
that's,
then Alicia and the Newbrook School Board, we don't need to have either. Okay, so I will let all these people know they can enjoy their holiday season without
Well,
having
we
me.
have a much more simplified town meeting.
Now, Bruce wants to keep the dedication in, so last time we were kind of like, maybe it should come out, but you weren't here. We didn't make a decision. But if we're gonna dedicate it to what? We dedicated it to all the buildings. We've had deaths, we've had people we've honored.
How about the town clerk?
No,
Jim doesn't even do a report.
I think
Why
departing
would
select
we-
board members maybe.
So Baloo that died.
I
so
did-
Was Secret died past town meeting last year?
yeah, she passed this
Yeah.
year, last year was Pat Baloo.
Our new resident maybe?
It's,
I do my own report, so you have the residents' report.
Yeah.
There
The
you go.
residents report. I think we should continue,
What topic though? What is it?
well, I think the people in Secret Blase and Priscilla Baloo were all pretty much instrumental things that they've done for this area, I think that they should.
Pat Ballou, I think
Your
we
report.
did the last report, yeah.
Did we?
Yeah, I think we,
And that's not a dedication, that's.
That was in
a
memory.
memory of.
that was a memorial.
That's different. We can, I don't have a problem with an in memory of because it's
Right.
3 or 4 or 5
So
people.
the dedication
and
was
the
because of the tragedy for the
Fire last year.
fire.
The dedication was for the cuts.
Right,
Because at the time, we didn't know what we were doing, and then unfortunately.
right.
So in this
In the
case,
previous year, there was a dedication to the Brookline Meeting House Advisory Committee. Just FYI.
So, if we don't have a dedication, we don't have a dedication, just have the
In memory
memorial,
of.
Okay.
memoriam and.
Yeah, in memory.
It's more of a, it's almost like a, you know, a culture that we did years and years and years. But like so many things are changing.
If we have, you know what, if there is if something really cool happens or something special
Yeah.
happens and we feel the need to make a dedication.
Rusty William.
Who?
We can.
Dedicates
we could have a dedication to the people who show up to sing.
Well, don't start me on that.
So the one question I have, select board report, yay or
I'll
nay,
introduce-
you?
I'll do a summary
Okay,
and we can put in the information about the buildings.
okay.
I'll try to write you something up, not, that's
I don't-
modest in size.
We got our speed limit signs
You gotta speak in.
and pared down the report.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, so I will send something out tonight. You guys just made my lives easier too, so thank you.
Well,
And Dave too, because
I
David has
agree.
to take my
There's other
stuff.
things that we can make you do instead, because I have more policies lined up here, but,
I know,
yeah.
the logging one's enough.
All right, very
Okay.
good. So let's see, where are we at on our agenda?
We are at 10 communications. Email. Can I speak to an email I sent? Everyone, since it didn't come up elsewhere.
Wait, hold on. Honey Mountains, Sunny Lane, town report. So we discussed the town report. We're going to modify the number of
Entries.
entries or articles, and Chris is going to communicate that to the other people. Is there anything else under town report at this time?
No.
All right. Next under communications. Chris, you wanted to say something?
So I sent an email about the logging policy because I was looking at like Vermont statutes related to logging itself. So the Cabot policy is basically to protect their roads. This Wyndham policy is a phantom.
I know, I got a copy of it and
Oh.
it's three lines.
Okay.
And the last one says, I spoke with the town clerk today, and I said, it says, see the town clerk for a permit. And I said, what's the permit? He says, I don't know, we don't have a permit.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So it was,
So it's literally a phantom.
yeah.
So and then there's a lot of rules that seem to be protecting logging in the state for obvious reasons. So it was like going down a rabbit hole that was getting more and more frustrating as it was going down. And I was like, I'm not gonna, because we were talking about hours, we were talking about other things beyond what the Cabot had. And it's like, I don't think we, unless we had like a legal opinion, I don't think